right. So now that we've learned that scarcity is this idea that you can't have everything, and really economics is this, for most, for 99.999% of us, is this is this choices. What are you going to buy? What are you not going to buy? What do you need? What do you want? How do we balance these out? Um, this also applies to countries. Look, you guys, we're the richest country in the world, the United States. And yes, we'll talk about China and catching us, and maybe our GDP per capita, our average money earned by a person is less, maybe, than say Luxembourg or maybe Qatar or UAE, some of these oil producing countries. But um, we're gonna say, look, we have the highest GDP in the world. We're the 10th highest GDP per capita. We're the richest country in the world. But yet we have to make choices every day. Our government, who we choose, has to make choices every day of how to spend our money. We learned last semester in government that Congress has the job of choosing where to spend our money. And some of the choices we have to face are things like, do we spend money on the military, or do we spend money on schools? We know, now we're going to discuss that one tank costs $8.5 million. Um, and tanks are used sometimes in war, not as often as they used to be. This isn't World War I or World War II anymore. And because we buy hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles and planes and bombs and weapons and weapon technology and research and all this stuff, we spend $700 billion a year on our military. $700 billion a year on our military. Now let's look at the choices that we could have spent that money on. Now, the military is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't spend money on the military. It protects us, and safety is maybe the number one job of the government. But right now, a school lunch at Taft costs $3. I'm gonna tell you guys that I grew up getting free lunches because my family was below the poverty line. And from the time I was 8, my parents divorced, till the time I was 18, I was a senior in high school. I got free lunches, I got free brunches, I got government help at school. Each year, the federal government spends $13.6 billion on free or reduced price lunches for children who grew up in poverty. So, as a government, the United States has chose to spend $700 billion a year on our military, extremely important, and $13.6 billion a year on food for low-income children, K through 12. Now, I'm not trying to say it was a good choice. I'm not trying to say it's a bad choice, but it's a choice that our country made, and each country gets to make these choices. They get to decide how much money goes to different things. Towards the end of the year, we're going to break down our spending. And we'll find out exactly how much our federal government, our state government, our city governments, our county governments, how much money are they spending? And really, it's our money. It's just the taxes that we have taken out of our paychecks that we give when we buy stuff. So how much of our money is being spent on what? And this is a real big part of this course, is trying to understand where our money goes and what it's used for. So nations have to decide what to produce, factor in the change, etc., who to produce it for, fancy houses or low-income houses. In LA, we recently voted to tax half a cent on every purchase in LA City, and try and get some low-income housing for very poor, homeless people. And then the question is, what kind of houses are you going to build with that money? Are you going to build small, modular, one-bedroom, maybe type homes, or are we going to try and say, oh, well, no, we should, we'd be building, bigger, more expensive things. All of these, again, this is all choices that societies make as to how they spend their money. Should we give tax breaks to the super, super rich who are rolling around in money, billionaires, 100 millionaires? Or should we take that money and use it to give free healthcare for everyone, including low income, including the rich? That's a choice that we make. We've chosen in our country to give those tax breaks to the rich and not to use it for things like free healthcare. Maybe that's the right choice. Because well, it's obviously what we want because we're choosing leaders who make those choices. And if we had chosen different leaders, then we would have chosen and made different choices. So all of these choices are connected from what we talked about last year and how the government works and how we choose our leaders. We got to see an election last year. And then we got to choose the leaders who are going to spend our money the way that we want. So that's, again, why it's important that we know who we're choosing and that we understand where money is being spent, and then we can make more informed decisions.